different meetings kind of hit people different ways. And, I don't know, maybe you don't agree with me, Ed, but I need to get more saying in my life because that guy is so positive, and just so inspirational, and just, great ideas on how to show up, you know. His comment last night on showing up to these networking meetings and, being prepared to be vulnerable, that really hit me. I never had that as a mindset to show vulnerability, and at the end of the day, it's so endearing to people, people want to help. So if you are open about where you need help and you tell people, the help is likely to show up. If nobody knows what you need, it's going to be really hard for them to figure it out. So anyway, I don't have a slide up, but most of you guys on here already know. The Multifamily Freedom Chasers is we call it an ecosystem. It's come together over the last several months. I'm still blown away every week by the people that we have join us. The leaders of this group have spent tens of thousands of dollars on mentorship, and they come on here every week and offer what they've learned to the public for free. So our goal is to just continue to provide that value to you guys, and we want you to participate. We want you to network in the group. This is the smallest group we've ever had. Maybe more people will roll in. We'll see. I don't know. Jerry, during the week, are you doing much to promote your calls?
Yeah, we are. Shelly puts different things out, coming up and leading up to it.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to make a video.
Okay.
I'm connected with a bunch of different groups on Facebook, a bunch of different real estate investing groups, and I posted on all those. I've been kicked off of a few for posting my own stuff on there. I just said I didn't want to be in that one anyway. So
there you go. There you go. So yeah, I just, of course, I started a new job back in June, and I've just been so busy with that. I've kind of lost track of promoting the calls during the week. And, when you don't continue to promote it, things tend to drop off a little bit. But yeah, for the new folks, and most of you, obviously, you're familiar with the group anyway. But for you new folks that are showing up, I would really encourage you, if you haven't done it already, join the Multifamily Freedom Chasers group on Facebook so you're getting notified. That's the other thing I think that's affecting us right now is across the board, people are having massive problems with sending mass texts. And that's how I got on this call. Right. I join this call every week. I don't have a link. I didn't have it set up on my desktop. I didn't have some easy access to this call, even though I'm technically leading it, because I get a text every week that I just pull up my text and hit click, and I come right to the call. So those texts aren't showing up anymore. And I guess there was some law change as of September 1st, which has made it really difficult to send out those mass texts. So I think that's another reason why we're not getting as many people showing up. But people are trickling in. Continue to, as you get value out of these calls, please let people know about us. Send them to our Facebook group so they get notified of all our meetings.
I just sent the Facebook link is in the chat, so everybody can click on there. Awesome. Anybody that hasn't joined the group can click on it there. So
yeah, appreciate that. So for those of you who might be new, every Sunday night we have a Zoom. We call it our activation Zoom. Have we changed that to every other week? We did change that to every other week, didn't we? Okay. So, but sometimes we have a special meeting scheduled. So you have to check the Facebook group to know the schedule. We had one last night. We'll probably have another one in 2 weeks. And then every 2 weeks on Monday nights, we do the broker outreach. We're starting a new series every other. So we're the first and third. Guys, do you know what is the topic the other 2 weeks? What are BB and
asset management?
Asset management. That's right. Okay. So then we'll have asset management every other week on Mondays. Tuesday nights, we do the napkin underwrite with yours truly, Ed Shamirian, up in the corner. And on Wednesday, Jerry Miles and his wife lead the debt call, and they do that every other week. And then on the alternating weeks, we've got Andrea and Drew. You're part of that group as well. And you want to tell us a little bit about that call, Drew? Are you available?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're part of an investment group called Armada. We are covering multifamily fundamentals or foundations, I should say. So we just wrapped up a three episode series on how to build a syndication team, how to find your GP partners when you're starting a group together, and then how to operate it. We are now moving into a series on mindset. Our first episode of that series is this Wednesday night, and we are talking about mindset of money. So moving from a trying to get rich mindset into building wealth mindset.
Awesome. So that'll be every other week on Wednesdays. So guys, we're putting out massive content every single week. We encourage you to check it out. Anything you need to know in the multifamily space is going to be available here. And you talked about finding partners, Drew. You're going to find partners in these rooms. Network with each other. In fact, I encourage you to hit the three little dots up at the top, in the top right corner of your little window where you see your face or your picture. Hit those three dots and rename your name and put a way for us to contact you, or whatever information you want us to know about you. Let us know where you are. I'm in Georgia. If anybody's in Georgia, let's go have coffee. I've had calls with many of the people on here outside of these meetings. Get to know each other. Jerry's the debt guy. I'm also a debt guy. So if you need debt, call me or call Jerry. We'll get you to the right place. Jerry may have the product you need. He may not. But we probably know somebody who does. So use the resources, get to know each other. We've seen, Jerry, you've done with deals with people that you met through these calls, right?
Yeah.
Ed, you're working on some stuff, and that's all with people that you've met through these calls. Is that correct? Or some of it with people you knew before?
Yep. And
some connection through this call for me.
Yeah. So I know I haven't. So have I closed any deals? I don't think I've closed any deals yet, but I've had countless conversations. We're underwriting deals. We're building relationships that we know are going to lead to business in the future. So it's great to show up. We want you to show up, but we want you to participate. Right? We want you to raise your hand. We want you to ask questions. Like on Sunday night, we always have a special window at the end of the call for people to raise their hand and ask questions. What we do at the beginning of that is we ask people to raise their hands and share their wins for the week. So we always love that. If anybody's got a win they want to share for this week on this call tonight, raise your hand. Let us know. So get known, guys. That's how you get known, right? If you come in and even if you're just asking, you're not adding any value yet, right? Because you don't have the knowledge to bring value to the group. You add value by asking questions, because I promise you, you're not the only one with the question. Somebody else has it. And these calls are so much more valuable and so much more interesting when we can engage with each other and we can get to learn from each other and get to know each other. So since this group is so small, I'm going to call out a couple people real quick. I know, Corey, you're driving, so you keep your eyes on the road and don't worry about fooling with your phone. But Stephen, I don't know that I've met you before. Tell us a little bit about you, your business, and what market you're in 60 seconds. I'm assuming you're in a position where you can unmute since you're looking at me. Can you give me a thumbs up, Stephen? Can you give us a 60?
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that. I was having some problems trying to find my screen there.
I get it.
I'm the new guy on the block. My name's Stephen Lembo. I'm with the Joe Sell Group, real estate developer here out of Florida. developed in Florida as well as in Texas, well, across the nation, but that's where primarily most of our projects are at. And I'm readily available to offer any bit of help. I'm a retired Marine, and I like basically to kind of take what we do or what we did in the Marine Corps, kind of put it into real estate as well as help others. Also, I'm also simultaneously the CEO of a national organization I can talk more about offline. It's called NAREP, National Association of Unified Real Estate Professionals. And if you would like to know more, just ask me later. Try to keep it narrow.
Love it. Love it. What town are you in, Stephen?
Tampa, Florida.
Tampa. Okay. Yeah, we've got a sales guy down in Tampa. I used to get down there a fair amount. I had a brother who lived down there. Fortunately, he's no longer with us. So, Igar, are you able to unmute and tell us a little bit about you?
Hello, yes. Hi. My name is Negar Hikmet, and I'm in Northern California. I'm a realtor with eXp, and I've been on these Zoom calls for months now, and learning, learning and trying to, which I did actually this past weekend, contacting brokers for some
Awesome.
deals. And
Okay, so
it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I mean, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was.
That's what we want to hear. So the question is, did you record those calls?
Oh, I did not.
Okay. So I'm going to
okay.
encourage you to do that. And that's not just for us, although it's super helpful. We love to have people be able to listen to those conversations, right? I'd love for, if you're open to it, right, record a call, and then let's listen to it on this and let's talk about it, right? Let's help you through that. Let's talk about what we think went well, what you could do better. I think that's a super valuable exercise, not only for you, for us, and for everybody that hears those calls. That's the majority of the feedback I've gotten from this particular call. Is it's super helpful to hear people have these conversations, hear what they're saying, how they're saying it, how they're connecting with these brokers. And that's really, really helpful. So I love that you're doing that. What was this your first time calling?
First time. I was nervous.
So you said you've been coming for months to our calls.
Yes, for months.
Different
Zoom calls. I've listened to brokers calls with other people doing it, and but that's not how that's not exactly actually. Wait, oh, you know what I did do, and I encourage people to do so. YouTube. How did I? Yeah, I did YouTube, but not with the people that I know, not with the groups that I'm talking about. Just some guys doing it. I didn't even know him. So that gave me the kind of like the push. Oh, okay, I can do this. So and what I didn't know what to say, actually my questions were, do I say that I'm a realtor, or can I just say I'm part of it? Team. I know I'm not supposed to say syndication, but I did say in some of the calls I did say I'm a realtor, and it didn't really matter, I guess, that much. Maybe it did, I don't know, but either way, 3 of them out of, I don't know, 8, 9 calls I made, no less. I got 3 out of 6. I got 3 who responded very nicely.
That's awesome.
So I can jump in with that, because I'm licensed too here in California, and usually I use being an agent, and I run my own brokerage, which helps. It's like I use that as leverage. Like, hey, I know how the game works. I get what you need and what you're looking for in a buyer. You help me, I'll help you. I know what's important to you. I know how that works. I know what the relationship is going to be like. I'm going to be the buyer in this position and not the agent. But having worked with buyers, we understand what that dynamic is. And I always say, like, hey, I'm licensed in California. I'm not licensed over there, so I'm not expecting anything from that end of it. On like fees, or like people, some brokers may find it intimidating, like, oh, now you're trying to get something. You make it clear, like, I am the buyer in this situation. I'm just letting you know I'm a broker, so you know I'm on your team. Like I
So
get
you do tell them that you're a broker.
always. I leverage.
I think it will.
leverage it.
Yeah, it's sort of like credibility is
Exactly.
what.
I was just gonna say that. It also helps because it's like, oh, they know real estate. Like they're not like, yeah, I would hope that anyone that, like, if you're calling a like a big apartment complex or commercial brokers, it does now more than back in the day, like back then. Now you're gonna have more people calling who may not know a lot about it, but saying you're a realtor alone, it's like, okay, I have this credibility piece.
Right.
Now, for example, development, that's your credibility piece. Stick to it. Like, hey, this is what I do. This is what my thing is. This is what I'm good at. It relates to this in like new industry I'm trying to tap into, and that's why I need to build my book of brokers. But I do have knowledge in this space. You fill my gaps, I'll fill the rest. And I think that really helps when you can relate it to what you're actually doing before. Whether it's single family or you're an agent yourself or developer or syndicator, whatever it is, hey, this is what I'm good at. Let's work together. I have people who fill my gaps. You bring us the deals and we can work together.
Yeah, what I was nervous about before I even started to do my calls were, what if they ask me, what if they ask me, what team are you in and how much have you done? What part are you? What are you doing? And how much have you raised capital? Or the other questions I was like, how much have you done? Somebody asked me about like deferred. Have you done any? I asked question that I just distracted him by just going completely off the subject, but I guess I handled it pretty well. He did send me the T12 rent roll very nicely. Yeah. So my question is, what do you tell them? What do you say when they ask you, what company do you work with? What team are you with? What company?
Well, leverage up. And I think an important part of that as well is, I think this comes to a lot of like the Wednesday calls that you guys have been talking about, and like the team building and just the calls in general in this community. It's like, who are you working with? If you get a deal tomorrow and it's the best deal anyone on this call can find, what is your next step? Do you know that? And I think that's, once you have the answer to that, like, okay, I know who I'm like verifying with, or whose credibility I'm kind of leaning on. Because the last thing you want to do is say like, oh, we're doing this, and then you share the deal with someone else, and then that person brings it up, and it's like, oh, but you're not doing that. Like, so who is doing that? And it's like, it gets muddy. And I'm not saying don't leverage us as much as you can. Like, you don't have to send every deal to any specific person, but when you are saying that, make sure you have a person in mind. Like, I work with XYZ. This is what we've done. This is what we're doing. They're the first person that's going to see it. If they're not the ones that like it, I'll tell you, hey, I'm sharing it with other people who I know in my community because they reach out to me and they're interested. At the end of the day, it's a win for the broker because they get a sale.
Like, is it you guys, like, for example, if I work with you guys, do I say multifamily freedom chasers, or do you guys have different companies within you? Because I see different groups of people within freedom chasers, for example.
Right. You can absolutely say that you're part of the multifamily freedom chasers. I wouldn't hesitate to say that at all. That's not an entity that's doing deals, right? We're a community that's learning how to do deals, and whatever entity you do it under is not going to be multifamily freedom chasers. But like Ed said, just leverage this community, leverage whatever other communities you're participating in, leverage the relationships that you're developing. For me, I have an entity that I've had for over 20 years. I've used it in lending, in private lending, right? But first of all, I introduced myself. This is Peter St. Martin with Real Estate Solution Provider. They don't even, the key is, once you get really comfortable and you get really confident in what you're saying, those questions just don't come. You know what question I do get? No one's ever said, well, how many deals have you done? Not yet, right? I'm not saying nobody will, but they haven't. And I think it's because I approach them with such confidence, even though I've never done a multifamily deal. They don't know that, right? If they ask me, I will tell them. But the question I do get is, well, how many assets do you have in Atlanta? Oh, we don't have any. We're breaking into this market right now. And then it's not like say, well, where are your assets? I've never had anybody ask me. Well, and like when people do ask me about that, well, we closed the deal back in November in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, right? That the multifamily freedom chasers guys closed the deal in Tennessee. I didn't have anything to do with it, but I was aware of it. I was keeping track, so I was involved from the outside, right? And I just use that as leverage because I have knowledge of that deal and I have knowledge of the process. And even though I haven't closed the deal, guess what? I know what I'm doing. I'm calling you to get the rent roll in the T12, and I'm calling you to get enough information so we can do a napkin underwrite on this. If it looks good on the napkin, we're going to go into a deep dive. If we like what we see there, we're going to submit an LOI. So I can I can play the game, I can talk the language. And that's all you need to do. And as long as you're doing that with confidence, you're not going to get a lot of these questions that are difficult to answer.
Okay, so it doesn't matter then. I think, yeah, so like you said, they don't really care, right? They just want us to present them the LOI. That's it.
Exactly. And you pointed out that he asked you a question that you couldn't answer and you kind of distracted him. You just find something else to connect with them on. Just engage with them on a different topic, and just figure out, get to know enough about the person you're talking to figure out how can you add value. I mean, that's the bottom line, right?
One thing I real quick want to add to that though is when you are preparing an LOI, things can move very quickly. So make sure if you do have an LOI being sent out, whoever you're sending it with and whoever you shared the deal with, make sure that you have a lot of your ducks in a row, essentially. Make sure you know who's sponsoring the loan if it's an assumable, who's sponsoring the loan if it's a new loan. How is the funding going to come about? You have seasoned capital raisers on the team and in the deal, because things become moving, like it moves quick, your costs accrue quick, which I think people don't realize as well, where all of a sudden now you have to try to set up PPM and inspection, and you have EMD, which EMD happens after 3 days. Once the escrow is open, and then you also have the fee of putting the RPA together or the agreement together, the purchase agreement. Like all these things happen very quickly. If you're not prepared for them, you're gonna find out quick that it's like, oh, okay, I wasn't as prepared for this as I anticipated, and now you're scrambling, and that gets scary. So I would recommend making sure you have a lot of those things lined up. You can submit the LOI. There's probably going to be a song and dance there, but make sure you have a lot of things prepared before you get too far into it that you wouldn't be able to do yourself, because you can lose the deal just from that, and it could be a great opportunity.
Yeah, and right after I find a deal and it's a good deal, then I guess the syndicator people that I work with, they will have the money to do it. How does that work? Or I have to go out and raise capital already, because I'm trying to handle one at a time.
Yeah.
The EMD, who puts down the EMD?
EMD, you need to have someone who's willing to put up the risk capital. That doesn't come at no cost, obviously. But also regards to the capital raise, for it to happen that quickly, it's probably not going to, especially today. And even the person who says I can raise 5, 10, 1 million, 3 million, 5, 7, whatever million dollars, that takes time as well. This is a long process. Like escrow is not short by any means. No part about it short. So a lot of things take time. A lot of things take like a lot of consistency and traveling out there for inspections, wherever it may be. Like this all stuff is gonna come quick, but also takes a lot of time to handle. So make sure you're familiar with how it's going. Like I'm going through the process now in Florida. We've gone to inspections where we've gone past the due diligence date. We're starting to record our videos for putting it out to investors. So like all these stuff are happening, but it's a lot of work for sure.
Yeah.
So the other thing I would add to that is if you look at a deal, you've kind of dug into it a little bit and it looks like a really good deal, yet you've got communities like this to come to, you're going to find people right here in these rooms that are going to want to underwrite that deal with you. Okay. And I promise, write down my phone number, call me. We'll get you connected with the people you need, right? We can underwrite it. We have connections with people who can be the sponsor. Is that a term that you're familiar with? Sponsor?
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, obviously you have to have somebody who's able to sign on the loan.
Yes.
You have people who can broker the debt for us. Jerry Miles happens to be on the call right now. So we have all the pieces that are necessary to put this together right here in this community. We will find the people. So keep doing what you're doing. You find a deal that looks really good. Reach out to somebody that you bet with. Call me, call Jerry. We'll get the right people in place. Call Ed, call Drew, call Sean, get to know people on these calls. And I promise you that team will come together around you if you have a real deal on the hook. So are you calling just in your area? Are you calling in other states? Where are you calling for deals?
Yeah, in California, right for now. Well, to be honest with you, I was on the call with this 12 weeks class with Alex. Lovely.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah, and so this was part of our homework. So and he wanted us to find properties in our backyard, and I live in Northern California, so I thought people like, actually two of them, one of them is very close to me. It's a city next to me that I was able to get the financials.
Awesome.
It's like 10 minutes away from me. That was awesome.
Oh, you can see that.
What is that? Legends level. Oh, you are part of it? Yeah,
No,
that's it.
We all know Alex.
Yes, Legends was the one part of that.
Yeah, I was with Alex down in Miami a few months back, and then I got the t-shirt. So
yes, yeah. So that's great. I was just before you guys, I was on a call with him. He brought a lady about real estate wealth. But anyways, yeah, so backyard that I'm doing, I'm finding which is, I always thought California is too expensive. I got to look into North Carolina, Texas, but I'm doing California now, we're at 43 units.
Yeah, awesome. And, like I'll tell you, that is a little bit of a niche, right? You're not going to find a ton of people in the multifamily freedom chasers that are looking for deals in California. But Ed's in California as well. He's not in your backyard exactly, but we'll find people that want to help you. In fact, Drew, can you speak? Are you in California, Drew? I know Andrea is. I don't know where you're located.
Yeah, Andrea and I are both in California. We're investing in Ohio, but we are here.
What part of California, north or south?
LA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm northern. Okay,
we're not met up yet.
But let me ask you this: if she gets a live one on the hook and the numbers look really good in Northern California, would you help her out?
Absolutely.
I'd do it 100%.
I mean, yeah. So we got a room. We got 8 people on this call. We got multiple
I'm gonna
people
go
willing
to
help
chat, and please, everybody, put your numbers. I'll write it down and definitely put you guys in my contact. I do need help.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
My number's right there next to my name.
Yes, I see Edward. I'm glad you all said that, Edward and Peter. Because my other thinking was, well, what if I find something, a good deal, and who am I gonna tell? Alex said to somebody, oh, I don't even look at anything else except Vegas. So when he said that, I'm like, oh, well, who am I gonna go to? I mean, who's gonna take my deal? Who's gonna help me? Now here you are saying that about all these wonderful things. Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate that.
We'll find somebody that you get a deal that looks really good on paper, and we're gonna find somebody to help you. I promise you that.
Okay, but great.
Thanks for really appreciate you coming on tonight. And if you would, I'd love to see you record a couple of calls. Again, even if you do nothing else but just listen to them.
Right. It helps other people for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to have you come here next Monday or 2 Mondays from now with a recorded call that we could all listen to. That would be awesome. So Thanks for joining us.
When I use my iPhone, I mean, do I use my iPhone for record when I'm talking to somebody? I just press record. That's it? Or should I YouTube it? I YouTube everything.
Yeah, you could probably. I typically use Zoom.
Zoom.
When I record it, so I just actually what I've done is I've got a Zoom call that I'm recording, but I don't know. Can you do recording on Zoom with a free account?
Yeah, I call them though. See, I don't do Zoom with them. I call them.
No, I understand. What I do is I have my Zoom running and I've got it on record and I've got my phone on speaker. So that's probably not the best way to do it.
I see.
That's
I'm sure there is a
point.
way, right, you guys, that when you talk on the phone, you can record your calls. Can you even do that?
Yeah, I know Google Voice has a feature like that, and I don't actually even know how to enable it. But
I'm sure there's some ways.
There's an app. There's an app that is called. There's an app called Tape a Call. You do have to pay for it. Yep, and then it gives an advisory in the beginning of the call that it is recording, and then it actually records the call, and then you can play it afterwards.
Gotcha. I'm sure if you Google how to record a phone call, there's probably a million options that would pop up and help you with that. So, Sean, you're the only one we haven't had a chance to find out a little bit about you. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, don't have any multifamily projects right now.
Okay.
Definitely in the market though. Pretty familiar with underwriting it. You know, I have in the past mostly fallen into doing developments just because that's what my family's used to. I guess we've always managed to get land and then we had to figure out something to do with it. So, you know, we've done small, residential subdivisions, some self-storage, some commercial office buildings. And we do have a site right now that is zoned multifamily, so we may go down that path. We're just kind of entering engineering on that right now, so we'll see. But in the Seattle area, so not the cheapest part in the world, but it is what it is.
I'm not sure any place is cheap anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
Nothing's cheap. So awesome. So are you calling brokers? Are you planning to call brokers? Do you know what you plan to do within the multifamily space?
Yeah. I got a few properties I was looking at over the weekend that I have to respond to tomorrow. I had a couple of brokers respond. So looking here, I mean, I have some family in North Carolina, so I'm looking at both markets. You know, I have some of that I can actually drive by Charlotte properties if I find something that's interesting there. But Seattle's my backyard, so I'm pretty familiar with Western Washington. So if I see something and look at the rents, I know if I'm interested or do not want to be interested in a particular area. So obviously that's what I'm focused on too.
Awesome. Well, on this call, you've got boots on the ground in Northern California. You got boots on the ground in Southern California. You've got Northern Kentucky / Southern Ohio covered. You've got Atlanta covered. I can get to Charlotte too pretty quick if I need to. So anywhere in the Southeast Charlotte's about 4 hours for me. And I'm certainly willing to go anywhere an hour or two from I can get to Chattanooga, I can get to Greenville, I can get to Birmingham pretty quick. So, but Corey, I don't know where he's from. He's driving, so I don't really want him to fool with his phone. And then we've got Tampa covered too. So we got a lot of the country covered right here just on this tiny little call. So
sounds like it.
Yeah, that's the other thing about finding connections. If you find a hot deal in just about any market, you show up on the Sunday night call and hey, anybody interested? My win for the week was I'm underwriting this deal in Oklahoma and it looks really good on paper. Is there anybody interested in Oklahoma? You're going to find people, I promise you, really, really quick. So finding the team to work with, I don't think will be a problem for anybody. if you keep coming back to this group, keep making connections, keep showing up. Just got to, one of the keys is figuring out what do you want to do. Obviously, not everybody is going to call brokers. I've had plenty of people come on this call just to get information, just to learn, really with no intention of calling brokers, because that's not their thing, right? They're looking to be an asset manager, whatever. So I'll be honest with you, I don't intend to continue to call brokers forever. I think my niche is more on the capital raise side. Although I think I can do both, but at a certain point, you get pulled in so many directions. You've got to have a little bit more of a focus, and I think that's my, who knows, that's my plan right now, is to focus more on the capital raising side. But for now, I enjoy teaching, and I get a lot out of these calls, and I think other people, the feedback I get from these calls is really positive. So we continue to. So it's already 8:43. We've got 17 minutes left. If you guys have anything else you want to talk about, we can do that. Otherwise, I've got a call that I'll play if you guys think that would be useful to hear a live call in action. That's and honestly, this one I didn't listen to it ahead of time, so I'm not even sure how this one went. I think it turned out to be not a multifamily asset, but we'll listen to a few minutes of it. I'll stop it, see if there's, it generates any conversation.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
Before you play that call, I actually had a couple of questions, but
yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'm brand spanking new to the group, just recently accepted in it, and I think with some of the groups that I've seen, it's kind of confusing with some of the I guess some of the wordage or the verbiage there. So multifamily, is this a group that's pretty much investing in stabilized multifamily only? Or is there a variety? Because as a developer, I find a lot of these groups are stabilized investments only. And the moment we as developers come in and we're like, hey, we're on the opposite side, even though I'm on both, I find immediately I get kicked out of groups because they're like, no, we're not looking to invest in your properties. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I don't know who's going to build it, because we're usually the ones that are building the stuff that you guys are getting. But so I'm trying to figure out, are you guys on both sides of the spectrum, or is it just stabilized only?
I can jump in for that one.
Go ahead.
For example, I'm in escrow on the Florida one I've mentioned. That one is not stabilized, but is a value add. So we're putting like almost $2 million in rehab capex budget. Now development, I know there's a market for that, and I know there's a very niche market for that. I'm never gonna say no to anything in regards to investment wise. Looking at it, one thing I actually would defer to, but also love to pick your brain at, is how to underwrite development deals, because that's one thing I think is still a little difficult that I'm struggling with in LA and outside of LA, because I'm always like, what do people expect as a return? What makes sense? What's the process like? I haven't dabbled into that one too much yet, but it does fascinate me. I do have a couple projects in Los Angeles that, because of that limitation, I haven't marketed too much yet, and also pricing, but that's a different factor. But to answer your question, I think you'll find a lot of diversity here in that sense, where I wouldn't say everyone does development, because it is so niche and, in my opinion, high level. But I do think there are people. I'm fascinated for sure. Jerry just said it. Drew asked another question, so I'm sure he's interested. Like, we're all pretty interested in it. I love real estate. I don't care if it has doors, windows, and it can house people. I'm interested. So to answer your question on my behalf, like for me personally, like I'm very interested in it. I think Jerry wants to jump in too. Or
Jerry,
Peter.
jump in. Go for it, buddy.
Hey, yeah, Stephen. I think there's going to be a lot of people that have been all multifamily, all stabilized, because that's what they've heard from, a lot of the gurus and things. And in this market, I see a lot of people looking at new things just because, they're normal deals that they've looked at in the past. They're not penciling out. And so I see a lot of people kind of changing course and changing directions just so they can find deals that work. So,
and that's great, because I need personally for us, we've we're consistently looking at multifamily, but I mean, there's other things that I've looked at as well. Obviously on the commercial side, even office, I know it's one of the biggest things that everybody's running away from. We're looking at running to it because it's like, there's a lot
Absolutely.
of, there's a lot of good stuff that's there. Also, luxury custom home builds for us is something that I'm looking at partnering with a buddy of mine over in California. We've been in some negotiations on some custom home builds here in Florida. And there's some other markets also that we can. So variety and diversity there on any development project for us is key. So.
Now that's awesome. And, you know, my high level answer to your question was going to be basically what these guys have said, but what you're going to find a vast majority of people in this group, I think, are looking for value add deals, but the group doesn't represent anything specific, right? You're going to find people. We have two people who have developed, at least that I know of, that have significant development experience on this call, right? Drew has been texting you if you haven't, or in the chat, very active. He clearly wants to get to know you more and have more conversations about what you're doing. And this is an unbelievably small group tonight, right? This is the smallest call I've been on, and I've been doing this since October. Which honestly, I love this because I love the intimacy of a call like this, because we actually get to spend time during this hour getting to know each other. But you know, share those phone numbers, get to know each other better after the call, and you're going to find people with money. You're going to find people with no money but lots of time. You're going to find people with tons and tons of knowledge in a specific area. You're going to find people with no knowledge whatsoever, and they're just here to learn, but they're ready, willing, and able to add value to you. And maybe they live in Tampa and you got something they can help you out with. You know, there's no limit to the connections you can make on these calls. I can't even begin to tell you how many people I know today that I didn't know before October of last year. In fact, there isn't anybody in this group that I knew before July. I probably met Ed in October. I met Jerry in October. I know we lost Fred. Fred was on here for a while. I've had one-on-one calls with Fred. He's a great connection. He's got a lot of knowledge. He's got a lot of experience. I haven't even gotten to know Drew personally, but I'm sure that I will, and I look forward to seeing what he and his team get to do as they move forward and the value that they add to this community. I can't wait to hop on some of their calls. You know, so again, just keep showing up. We appreciate you being here. We only have 10 minutes left, but you know, let's listen to a few minutes of this call. It'll probably, unless somebody has something else.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that second question real quick.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Sorry, no worries. The other portion of it is I hear this a lot on these calls. So what constitutes a deal typically for most of you all? Because it's a broad question and everybody has different metrics. So what's the even kill ground on what constitutes a deal for the most? I don't know if it's something we can answer now or if you guys can just tell me later.
I like
what are you guys looking for? I guess that would constitute that.
You want to offer the answer if you like the question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess for me, the biggest thing is for deals, I don't think off the bat in the first offer you're gonna land at the number you want or the seller want. I think one thing that I'm notorious for is I'll throw out as many interesting and different scenarios and offers to make it work. So for me, one thing that we're seeing now in like this Florida deal, for example, it's you're usually looking for at least the investor side a 2x multiplier on the return on capital. And how you get there, whether it's 80-20, 70-30, 6% pref, 8% pref, all of that factors into it. But the bottom line is, if I can't make the deal work for the investor first, I'm not even going to get to eat. That's the first and foremost thing. Now, there's a couple factors to that. How much capital is needed up front? How much capital is needed for CapEx? How much do I need to raise? What's my leverage on the existing or new debt I have to acquire? Is there a seller carry component to it? Is there not? What's the timeline of the assumable debt if there is one? What are the terms? Like, there's so many different factors, but those all factor into, can I get that 2x multiplier for the investor? If I can't get that, it's already hard enough to raise capital, then I'm just forcing an uphill battle that's making it more difficult for me to raise capital. And on the front end, and initially it's just going to be a lot more difficult with the rates being where they're at, and then Jerry will be able to touch more into that. But you really have to be on the safer side, and that's why you may see less transactions going forward. And that's actually something I would like to learn from you on the development side, but we could save that for later.
Yeah, my quick response to your question is, in 10 minutes, now 8 minutes, it's impossible to answer. There's so many variables, right? But at a super high level, number one, cash flow. It's got a cash flow, right? We're in no position to take on an asset, or now I would put it in the liability column that's got negative cash flow. There's no way. We can't do that, right? So it has to cash flow. And then the net return on capital, just like Ed said, right? If we don't, based on our numbers and based on our business plan, if we don't think we can return 2x on our investors' capital, is probably so. What criteria are you going to set for you and your buy box? I don't know, but for me, it wouldn't necessarily be 2x. A criteria I use, if I can't drive $1 million in value, it's probably, now, is that really a hard number? Will I do a small multifamily deal that I can increase the value $500,000 in 24 months? Yeah, of course I will. But in general, on some of the bigger deals, if I can't drive that value by $1 million, through renovations, through increased rents, through, again, there's so many variables. How are you driving value in that property? Well, one is to do renovations. One is you're buying from a mom and pop that's charging $400 under market rent today, right? Just because it's still cash flowing. They're still putting tons of money in their pocket, but they haven't kept up with the current market, and they don't want to kick these people out, and they don't want to go through the hassle. And, so many variables, but you have to be able to drive value. You've got to have that. That's what I'm not looking for, stabilized assets, right? Maybe someday in the future, when I have piles and piles and piles of cash sitting over here that I got to get to work, and there will always be buyers for those properties because there's piles and piles of cash sitting on the sidelines. For me, I'm looking to drive value, increase the market value of that property in the short term, in the next 12 to 24 months. So there has to be a significant upside. Then you've got the debt side and the debt considerations. Jerry, you want to? I think he's talking to somebody else right now. But as Ed was saying, we have to be very conservative. To me, I don't think that's ever different. I don't care what the market's actually doing, but today, especially, there's so much uncertainty in the rates. Are they going to continue to go up? When are they going to come down? Are they going to come down? Who knows? It's got to work now. It can't, I can't think it's going to cash flow 2 years from now when the rates drop. It's got to pencil out today. And that's one of the reasons why you're seeing so many fewer transactions happening, because the buyers can't pay what they were paying 2 years ago, and the sellers still want what they were getting 2 years ago. So we've still got this massive disconnect between buyers' expectations and seller expectations, and it takes time for that to work out. So, but there are still deals. There are always deals. It's just how hard is it to find them, and can we execute on them? So, Drew, I know you've got a fair amount of experience with your team. Did you want to comment on that question at all? And not to put you on the spot, if you don't have anything to add, that's totally cool.
No, you covered a lot there. I think the key part there is, the sort of creative aspect that's I think just core to multifamily. And not that you're, I know you're working in development, not single family, but I came from a single family. That's how I got started. And for me, learning as I got into multifamily, single family, you got to convince people like, hey, have you ever heard of seller finance, or, something like that. And as part of a sales pitch, most multifamily operators, they're business people, they fully understand this already. in my team, that's actually how we got started. Was one of our partners just got wind of an apartment building in Columbus that was offering seller finance as part of seller finance and assumable loan as part of the sales package. And he's like, I don't know what to do with this. Again, this kind of goes back to your question. He found this thing. He didn't really know much about multifamily. He reached out to me, and I was like, well, I don't really know what to do with it either, but I know some people who do. And we pulled together a little group and just started like researching what it took to get it done. And that particular property didn't pencil out when we underwrote it, but like it got us really excited about the process. And that was really just the impetus. It's just meeting the right people, getting involved, and then understanding, how much opportunity there really is in this space. So for us now, because we are looking in a couple of mid-sized markets where there isn't as much inventory, even in a normal period, not just right now when there's like very little inventory anywhere. We're now, trying to like reach out to our landlords who still self-manage, their property of however many units and have been doing so for probably a couple of decades. And, like Peter talked about, just the opportunity for the value add. They probably haven't done a lot of updates lately. They've got a lot of people who are way under market rent, if not delinquent. And that's where you really start to find the opportunities.
Yeah,
it's definitely unique. I'll be honest, as soon as he started talking about value add, I started literally thinking, okay, well, how do you go in there? You can do this or you can do that. And a lot of times I'm literally thinking from ground up construction. It's easy for me to start thinking about value add things that are going to generate numbers like that. But from an investment standpoint, when you're coming in and having to do something creative to add value, it's a challenge. So my hat's off to all of you all who are experienced in that manner. But I'm constantly trying to learn from the opposite side of the spectrum of what you all look at primarily for those types of deals.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you joining us. It's added a lot to the group tonight for sure. And I know there's going to be some meetings taking place outside of this, and that's a lot of what this is all about. Thank you, Nagar. Appreciate you sharing your story. That's great to hear that you're making those calls, and it sounds like you're going to be making some more this week. So we look forward to hearing about your progress. Plan to come, 2 weeks from now, but plan to come on the next Sunday night Zoom and share your wins about how you've started making phone calls and how that's going for you. We'd love to hear an update.
Sure, will do. Thank you so much.
That would be great. Thank you. Corey, thanks for joining us. Sorry you couldn't participate there, but I hope you got some value out of it, listening to it, rolling down the road. Good for you. Chasing that dream. I love it. That's what we're all here doing, right? We're chasing that multifamily dream. So